Hi there, my name is Megan Darvel and I want to talk to you about topics that I am very passionate about, so come along with me for the journey. I got a book for Christmas and it's called Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. I would recommend this book to anybody and everybody. It just gives you a new perspective basically on the patriarchy and feminism. One of the things that I read the other day, she was talking about sex and women feeling guilty about sex or pleasure, and it really got me thinking because I was like, hey, I've actually felt like this before. So I kind of wanted to have a deeper dive into that and see if anybody else feels that way. I reached out on Instagram the other day. The question that I asked on Instagram the other day was, have you ever felt guilty about sex, masturbation, or any form of sexual pleasure? And over 50% of women said that they had. Specifically 57%. So I was like, okay, cool. I want to see maybe what are the reasons behind why women feel like this. And some of the answers that I got were the lack of knowing that it can be enjoyable and that sex is not a bad thing. There is also a hectic reputation in society that society gives you that women should feel this way. Another answer was that it's growing up in a very Christian household and community, and it's ashamed upon if you either speak about it or if you're doing it outside of marriage, and it's something that should be saved for marriage. And then parents also never really speaking about it. So what I'm going to do today is basically speak about the reasons that I think I feel guilty or other women feel guilty, and I promise I have done some research. This is basically my subjects for talking. I think where it all really starts is from your parents, from your upbringing. And maybe some parents are very open with their children about sex, but personally my parents weren't. I'm not blaming them in any way, but I think the information that they gave me was a little bit misguided. But they're just telling me what their parents told them, what their parents told them. It's a whole generational dilemma that gets passed down, and then you also sort of begin to learn your own things when you are in the world. So it's like that. It's the people that you talk to, it's the people that you come in contact to, it's what you see in the newspaper or magazines or TV or movies or music. A lot of it does tend to have an effect. And I guess while my parents were bringing me up and while like they were just living life and being parents, it was very normal to see a lot of heterosexual couples. That's basically what my parents taught me, was that first of all, a relationship should only be between a male and a female, and if you are going to have sex, you should pretty much wait for marriage, and sex should only be with that one person, with that special person, with the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, and that person should be a man. Thankfully, my parents have opened up their minds and realized that the world does not always work like that there are other couples. But I also believe that another reason why they believe this and why they taught me and my siblings this is from like their schooling and what I was taught when I was in school, and I'm pretty sure what kids of today are still learning in school, that a relationship is between a male and a male. I hope not. I hope that schools have realized that you actually need to teach kids to be aware that other forms of couples exist before they go out into the world and they're like, what the fuck? Why are two girls holding hands? Why are two boys kissing? It's allowed. So when I went to school, I was in an all-girls, very strict, very religious Catholic school. We went to church every Wednesday and you would learn about a lot of things. Sex education was not one of them. I'm not saying that, although I will just now, that you should be like, okay cool, this is sex when the kids are like 6-7 years old. No, there's a different way you approach it. But once you start getting older, once you start hitting puberty, you should be starting to have these conversations where like, okay cool, this is sex, this is how it works, this is what happens. But we don't have that. Instead, we are told that sex is bad, you are sinful, you are disgusting, if you have it before marriage, you are not going to be loved. This is literally what we were told, and I think that's complete fucking bullshit. That this is where you're getting brainwashed, and once you hit puberty, no matter what happens, you are going to have these thoughts. You are going to think like, ooh, I really want to kiss Brad. Oh no, I shouldn't be thinking that. Oh, I wonder what it would be like if Brad touched my boobs. I shouldn't be thinking that. You're told that these things are bad. And as you get older, it's something that kind of, at least for me, like it kept ringing in my head, and that's why I feel like this is why I feel that I have felt like ashamed of sex or guilty about sex for such a long time, even now. But I think it definitely, it has to come down to education. So after I left that school, I went to another school, and then I went to high school. And we didn't necessarily have sex education. We had a subject called life orientation. Whenever I think of sex education, I think of that scene in Mean Girls where, I think his name's Coach Harp, they're in the gym and he's like, don't have sex standing up, don't have sex in missionary position, just don't have sex. If you have sex, you'll get pregnant and you'll die. And I laugh at that scene every time, but that's basically what we were told, that we're like brainwashed into believing. So the things that we were basically taught in life orientation about sex was that STIs are really bad. If you get an STI, you're gonna die. We learned about so many different STIs. We saw such graphic content about it that you're actually just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have sex because I don't want to get that. I don't want to die. I don't want this to be the way I live. I don't want people to think that I'm disgusting, because that's what basically our teachers told us. Another thing they told us that if you do have sex at a young age, you are probably going to get pregnant, and then it is going to ruin your life forever. Ooh. And then, so we're also told about abortions, or taught about abortions. We're told that there is an option to get rid of a baby if you do become pregnant, like early on in life, and if you're like a teenager. But then you're also told that it's really, really bad, and that you're a very bad person if you do get an abortion. Things that we are not taught is that STIs can be treated. How long is that in there? STIs can be treated. There is medication you can take that will help you with it, or how to avoid getting an STI, or how to avoid to get pregnant. Oh, the other thing that we were told about abortions, we were shown such graphic videos about abortions, and I'm very curious if the boys that I went to school with, because in grade 8 and grade 9 it was separate classes, and I can't remember the rest of it. I can't remember in grade 10, 11 and 12 if we had the same sort of exposure that we did in grade 8 and grade 9. But did the boys that went to the same school as me, or just in any general boys' school, were you showing these graphic videos about abortions and how it works? Please let me know. I am very curious, because that's also something that they should know about. And what also fucking pisses me off is that if you do get pregnant, and if you do want to get an abortion or whatever, it comes down to the girl's decision. It's a female's decision, which yes, it is, because we're in charge of our own body, but like all of that guilt, all of that pressure is just put onto the female. Hello, you need somebody else to get pregnant. It doesn't just happen by yourself. Always take responsibility. Maybe a conversation for another time. So instead of actually educating us and being like, okay, cool, this is how you can avoid getting pregnant. Here is a condom. This is what it's used for. This is how you put it on. This is how you take it off. Cool. Go have fun. Go enjoy. Because sex is fucking fun. But we're never told that. We're just told that it is bad. And that you should only reserve it for marriage. And I know I'm repeating myself. It just gets me really frustrated. Or we're not told about like other sort of forms of sex, like masturbation, about exploring your own body. Why are we not told these things? It is so, in my opinion, it is so normal for a boy to think about masturbation, to talk about masturbation, but it really isn't for a girl. Or what about like oral, and how to have like practice safe oral, like oral sex? That's brilliant, but we're not told about these things. you are a teenager, you're gonna get these urges. So instead of scaring kids into avoiding it completely, and then when they do it, they end up like basically harming themselves and harming other people, teach them how to do it in a safe way. So another thing that I don't really remember learning a lot about in school was sort of rape and sexual harassment and how to notice it, especially sexual harassment, because sometimes it can be very subtle and other times it's very blatant. But when it's happening to you, you don't really know what to do. And this 100% has an effect on sex guilt. I definitely feel it even today. And I wish it was something that we would like basically talk about it. And if you see it happening, like how can you witness the signs of it, whether it's happening to you, whether it's happening to a friend, and if it does happen, how do you deal with it? While I was doing this research, and it comes up a lot in the book that I was reading, it's a word that like I didn't even know existed, and it sounds strange me saying that because it seems like such an obvious thing, but I had to go and Google the meaning of this word to fully understand what it meant, and I'm like, holy shit, I wish I knew this when I was a little bit younger. So it's called body autonomy, and it is the right to make decisions over one's own life and future, and the right to govern what happens to your body without influence. And I really wish I knew this when I was younger, especially how to give consent, how to approach consent, how to not give consent, how to say no. When you're young, you kind of you let things happen. Perfect example. I remember in high school, there was this one boy, he was in my class, and every time we were going to a specific class, it was like stairs that we had to go up and down. He would kind of push me up and down these stairs, or he would try and lift my skirt, and I didn't know what to do to that, and I just kept thinking, oh no, boys will be boys. And I think that's the worst fucking thing to say to a girl when a boy has done something to her. Boys will not be boys. Boys should be held accountable for their actions no matter what age they're at. We've used this excuse for generations, and this 100% plays into sex guilt. I think I just honestly, I let it happen. If I had to go back now to that, I'd literally tell him to go fuck himself, to grow the fuck up, and I would have gone to report him to the teachers as well, because that is sexual harassment. I didn't have classes where, or even I think even a lesson in so-called life orientation where you're taught to sort of that you're allowed to have these boundaries, you're allowed to put up these boundaries, you're allowed to respect your body, and if somebody is disrespecting you or your body, you're allowed to say no, or anything of like what you can do. I knew at the time that I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't know how to approach it. Now I do. So my mum has had a conversation with me when I was younger. We have more conversations about it now, and I understand it more now, but back then I didn't. Yes, I understood that it was my body, but I didn't understand how much of it actually belonged to me, and that I'm allowed to say, no, please stop lifting my skirt, you fucking pervert. No, please don't touch me in that way, or please don't. Like, I didn't know I was allowed to say that, and I wish I did, because I think things would have gone a lot differently. I do believe that a lot of this does also come down to media and how sex is viewed and approached in the media. And I think this is also where a lot of boys learn their habits from. And I'm not saying they're going and watching and be like, oh, how do I treat a woman? Okay, cool, I can objectify her in any way I want because this is what Brad Pitt said. No, it is subliminal brainwashing. If you look at American Pie, and even I watched That's My Boy the other day, I can name countless other movies, and movies like that, it is a woman's body is portrayed as an object and something for a man to pleasure himself with. Especially in American Pie, you see all these ladies running around naked with their tits out. Yes, that's the theme of the movie, and I know people are going to be like, oh Megan, you're just being sensitive. But I just see it from a different perspective now. There's a difference when it comes to the male perception of sex in movies and the female perception of sex in movies. It is encouraged in males to have sex with as many people as possible, but you don't really see that when it comes to females. Instead, you see the side of where, let's say for example, Easy A, where Emma Stone goes and she tells her friend that, oh no, she had sex with a college guy, and then that all just gets misconstrued and then she's known as a slut. And I think the way men see how sex is portrayed on TV, they kind of outwardly express it in life. It's the same way how females see slut shaming in movies, and we're like, okay, if they're doing it in the movies, it's fine for us to do it in real life. And then again, that all boils down to why people feel fucking guilty about sex. I know I have slut shamed before. I think I did it before I even understood what sex was and how fucking great it is. But I have recently, and I'm going to say recently, like in the past year, actually being like, you know, if she wants to have sex, good for her. And people have been like, oh, she's being such a slut. I'm like, actually no, she's doing what she wants to do. And I think that's something that we as women need to encourage. I'm not saying go tell your friends to have sex with whoever they want. I mean, they can if they want to. But if a friend comes to you and being like, oh, you know what, Stacey had sex with Jason this weekend, and like, you know, she was just in a relationship, no. Tell that friend it's none of her business. Stacey can have sex with whoever she wants, as long as she's happy. We need to stop this fucking slut shaming. And I think it's been like this for the longest time. I think I'm going to do some research and kind of get back to you on like how long this has actually been going. I believe that in the beginning of time, males saw how powerful a woman could be. So they decided to sort of take that away from them, and the only way they could take that away from them was like force. And they started to convince and manipulate females that no, they are the stronger sex, that men are the stronger sex. And it's been going on like that for years, and this is why things are how they are. But I do believe nowadays more women are realizing how powerful they are and kind of claiming that back. And this is why people get so touched by feminism, because they're like, oh my god, why are the females doing this? Who's giving them the right to do this? Bitch, we've always had the right. We're just realizing we have the strength now. You also see in a lot of these movies that when it comes to males and experiencing their sexuality and experience sex or whatever, masturbation is encouraged for men, or boys at least, but not so much for females. I think, like I said, I've watched the American Pie. I don't know if I've watched all of them yet, but I remember there's like a scene where he's just like, he's fucking jerking off because the chick's coming around and he wants to last longer, which cute, I get that, I appreciate that. But the acknowledgement and talk behind male masturbation is a lot easier and it's a lot more open to speak about. Whereas when it comes to female masturbation, please name me 3 movies where you have seen female masturbation being openly spoken about. I think one of the first ones that I ever saw, I can't even name 3, but one of the first ones that I ever saw where female masturbation and just like a female taking a hold of her own sexuality was the to-do list. So, you know, she's got like, fucking love her, she's got a whole list of like things she wants to complete before she goes to college. But I don't like the thought behind it, because she's only doing it to prove herself to the patriarchy, or to tell the she's kind of like telling the patriarchy to go fuck herself, to go fuck themselves, sorry. But she's also only doing it so she can feel more accepted by society. I don't know, it's confusing. But yeah, so I looked at that. When I watched that movie, I kind of felt bad. I was like, yes bitch, go give a hand job, go masturbate, go do whatever you fucking like. But she was being judged by her friends and being slut shamed because she's doing all of these, and this is all to do with society and our upbringing and our media, and it all boils down to the same fucking thing at the end of the day. And this is a habit that we need to break as a society. It's not just a female's job to do this anymore. It's coming down to men and boys and education and every fucking thing. Please, can we wake up and do this? So women can feel empowered by their own sexuality the way a man does. Because if we don't encourage this, if we don't encourage women to feel okay about it, to enjoy it, the continuous like slut shaming is going to happen. I know that slut shaming is happening every fucking day, everywhere, so often. And when you do this, like when you slut shame somebody, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna be like that girl. I'm not gonna go sleep with 7 people. I'm not gonna give Johnny a hand job because then I'm just gonna be just like her. And then you're suppressing those feelings even more. So when it does get to the chance where you are like, oh, you know what, actually I like this boy, I want to do things with this boy, I want to do things with this person, it doesn't always have to be a boy. When you eventually do that act, you're gonna be like, oh, I am just like her, and you're gonna feel guilty. I think the first time I gave a hand job, I don't even know when that was. Honestly, I only had sex the first time when I was like 19. Honestly, I think I gave a hand job when I was like 20, and I was just like, I don't know, first of all, I don't know if I'm doing it right, and then I felt guilty because I didn't know if I was doing it right because I didn't know how to do it. And I was like, oh, but now I'm also just like all those girls I spoke shit about. Full circle. Full fucking circle. It's not fun. Can we please stop doing this, please? Please? Sweet. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to discuss, of course, porn. It's fine for men to view it and men to watch it, but it's not as fine for females to watch it. And when you do occasionally find that girl that watches it, you're like, what? But you shouldn't be watching this. Why are you watching this? Why the fucking men watch it without any judgment? That is my question. Men, I guess, learn a lot from porn, because I guess that's something, because they're encouraged to explore their sexuality and to explore their sexual likes when they're younger, and they watch porn and they learn from porn. So when it comes to actually having physical sex with another human being, specifically a female, they're doing what they learned. And I mean, that's not necessarily for them to blame, they're just doing what they think is right. But then girls don't enjoy it. And then girls feel that like, okay, cool, well, this is all I'm getting from sex, I don't really enjoy it, why am I gonna like it? Like, why? There is nothing to like, because guys are expecting way too much from them. I'm not saying this is all the time, please, let's just get that thing straight, and that not men are thinking or doing this exact same thing. It is a generalization. But this is also why women don't really feel that they are supposed to enjoy sex. Because maybe they haven't had sex with the right person that actually puts their pleasure first. I have had sex with some questionable people, and I've literally left the experience being like, you know what, actually, I don't even know if I like sex. Maybe that's why I feel guilty, because I don't like it. It's very confusing. But then I've also had sex with people, I'm like, oh my god, that was so good. Or I've had sex with people where they just prioritize their own pleasure, and then like I'm left there to do my own thing. But what I have been taught is that their pleasure comes first before mine. Luckily, with the relationship I am in now, that's not a problem. Okay, so moving kind of on to one of the last sort of topics about all of this, and why I think I also still feel guilty about sex, or why I have felt guilty about sex, is that gender roles are still very, very, very backwards. And this, it kind of continues from what I've said about movies, about and society in general, like thinking why men think that they own a woman's body. So one example, and I'm going to give, I guess, like 2 examples basically. The first example is when I was in university. I went out with my friends, and my boyfriend at the time, we'd been together for like a couple months. We were literally like walking into the place like where you dance, where the DJ is, where you like, this is where you fucking jaw. I was walking there and my friends were in front of me. I think my boyfriend might have also been there. I don't know if he was getting drinks or if he was with us, but like they were in front of me and I was the last one at the back. And literally all I felt was this fucking hand come and slap my ass really hard and then grab it like fucking tight, like it actually like it hurts. I turned around and I checked at these boys and I was like, who did that? None of them said a word. They were all just snickering to each other, but no one said anything. And I was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna let it affect me. I'm just gonna carry on with my night. I turned around again and it happened again. And this time this guy actually like fucking grabbed, like I wanted to cry. That's how much it actually hurt me, because he slapped and he grabbed my ass. Not just like the physical pain, but because I felt ashamed that this person thought they had control over my body. And I turned around and I was like, seriously, tell me who the fuck did that? And then all these guys looked at the one guy and like I went for him. And eventually like the bouncer had to come, and my friends were literally pulling me off of this guy. The bouncer had to come and pull me off this guy and like thankfully fucking kicked this guy outside. But I mean, I'd like to know who taught him that he's allowed to do that. Who's taught him that he can do whatever the fuck he wants to a woman and not for me to react? I don't think he was expecting that reaction. I think like a little bit before then I'd like decided like, no, this is my body, and like my boyfriend at the time was fucking mad that this had happened. It just like, even now it makes me feel so sick. Yesy. And this is what I mean by gender roles. I'll give it another example now, but basically this man, not even a man, he's a boy, he has been taught that he owns a woman, that he can do whatever, that he is better than a woman, that he's allowed to like do these actions. So another example was, I worked in Abu Dhabi and me and a friend went out one night, literally just to a bar. We just had a drink, we were literally just chilling. It's not even like, why am I already defending myself? I think it's so easy to be like, no, but I wasn't even like behaving this way, I wasn't even dressed like this way. It's so easy to fucking girls to automatically say that to defend themselves, but I wasn't doing fucking anything wrong. I was literally just sitting with my friend at the back of a bar, watching the band perform, having a drink, because that's all I wanted to fucking do, and then go home. This older gentleman came up to us and started chatting to us, and eventually he was like, how much for you to come back with me? And I'm like, no, sorry sir, I don't do that. He's like, oh, but I'll pay you this much. And I was like, no, sorry sir, I'm not interested. And then eventually I was like, do you have a wife? He's like, yeah, but she's back at home in whatever fucking country. And I'm like, what would your wife think about this? And he was like, oh no, she doesn't have to know. Again, it comes back to gender roles of men thinking they can do whatever the fuck they want with whoever the fuck they want and pay for it. Like, I'm not shaming sex workers. I think that's fucking empowering. I'm not confident enough to do that, but this is where like I do admire sex workers, legal sex workers that choose to do sex work, because they are taking control of their own bodies and turning it around to prioritize them and to get an exchange for themselves that benefits them. They're doing what they love and they're getting paid for it. Fucking good on you. But the fact that this man saw that I was a young female, seeing that I am vulnerable, decided to take this advantage to see how it could benefit him, wanted to pay me for his sexual pleasure. Obviously I'm not going to be fucking prioritized. Fuck that. No, he doesn't believe in that. And that's what I mean, like, it comes down to gender roles. And I do, every now and again, I do think back about these things, and it makes me feel such shame and such guilt based on sex. It's something that I have struggled with my whole life. I'll probably continue to struggle with, but it's something that I'm going to work on. I do think it's very important to share share this, to share what my opinion is, to share how I feel about these things, to share my experience, because a lot of people probably do feel the same, but they haven't expressed it, or they haven't found people that have experienced similar things. So speaking about these sort of experiences, it has left me with a negative taste in my mouth about sex. I have been sexually assaulted. I was in a very bad relationship where somebody also made me feel really bad about my body, and that my body only belonged to him, and I began to believe that, and that is sexual trauma, and that also makes me feel guilty about sex or having sex or even thinking about sex, because unconsciously it's something that's on my mind. If I am busy with someone, like let's say if I'm busy getting in the mood with my boyfriend, it is something that subconsciously like plays in my mind, and I have to actively tell myself to stop thinking that that's not true, that my body does not belong to anybody but me, that these experiences that I've had are not all the experiences I'm only going to have, if that makes sense. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to say is like sexual trauma also comes down to guilt. There's a lot of things, and I just really want girls to know that it's okay to feel this way, but that you shouldn't. Sex is not a bad thing. Feeling fucking awesome after sex is good, and you should revel in that. You shouldn't feel ashamed or feel guilty, and I hope that your future experiences aren't like that, and if they are like that, and if you don't like them, tell that person to fuck off. But you don't need that bullshit. I am still overcoming a lot of like the sexual trauma and bad experiences I've had, but I am learning to enjoy sex a lot more. I have over the past like year and a bit, but a lot more recently. So last year I did have a big sort of, I guess, like transitional period in my life. The first thing that I had to learn was to love myself first, and once I learned that, I began to enjoy sex a lot more, honestly. I am still learning, I am still overcoming, I am still recovering, I am still healing from a lot of things, but that's not going to stop me from enjoying what I want to enjoy. Okay, so I quickly just popped off to finish my whole eye look and to put mascara on and to put lipstick on. I think the first thing that we need to actually acknowledge is that sex oppression is a real thing, and it's okay. Hopefully in the next couple years we can reduce it and help women to realize that we deserve pleasure too, and we don't need to feel guilty about it. It's okay. And believe it or not, there are steps you can take to help yourself if you are experiencing some sort of sex oppression. So I think one of the first steps that you can take, no matter what age you are or where you are in life, is that sexual thoughts are normal, and if you do get sexual thoughts, it's okay. You shouldn't suppress them, you should acknowledge them, not criticize yourself for having them, and kind of just go with the flow. Acknowledge it, cool, sweet. You want to kiss Bobby on the lips or wherever else on his body? Cool, that's awesome. Carry on with the rest of your day. It's not something that you need to feel guilty about. Another thing you can do, definitely do, I would recommend it, I recommend all of these things, but is read up about sex positivity. We are in an age where we have so much information readily available to us. Go follow some sex positive things on Instagram, sex positive accounts. Go Google sex positive blogs. I promise there will be lots of things that you can find. I also encourage you to go watch a bit of porn. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also a lot of legal porn, I guess you can say, where it's not just Pornhub where you're watching people just go at it and it doesn't look enjoyable. There is a lot more realistic porn and people that you can support. It may even make you feel better about what you like during sex, and you're gonna be like, oh, I like this. What is so and so gonna think? It doesn't fucking matter what so and so thinks. But go watch some porn. Go explore in different movies. Go watch 50 Shades of Grey. If that empowers you, that's cool. Don't let people discourage you from watching things or reading things or listening to things that make you feel empowered. There's podcasts even. Go listen to that. It's beautiful. Another thing that you can do is get comfortable with your own body. Go and stand in front of your mirror, naked, tits out and everything, and just feel your body. Maybe try to give yourself some compliments. Maybe you like your knees, maybe you like your eyes, maybe you like your nipples. That's good. Also, don't let people shame you from having a different body from somebody else. Maybe that also has had an effect on why you feel certain ways about your body, why you feel a certain way in front of your partner. You need to acknowledge that your body is beautiful. List things about your body that you enjoy. Another thing that you can do, I actually did earlier this morning, is take a mirror to your downstairs area, to your vagina. How are you supposed to know what you like if you don't even know what you look like? How do you expect your partner to know what you like if you don't know what you like? It's all about learning about you and expressing the way that you feel, which kind of leads me on to my next point, is talk to your partner when it comes to sex. Talk to your partner about things that make you feel insecure. Maybe talk to them about past experiences that you've had, so they're aware that if they do a certain action and you maybe back away from it, they know that it's not, that it's like it is something that you might be uncomfortable with, and maybe they can help you kind of overcome that, or like even avoid that. That's also okay. You don't need to always like the same things. You're also allowed to change the things that you like, but communicate that with your partner. Be mindful during sex. Speak to them throughout. Ask for consent. Ask them stuff like, first of all, before I carry on, asking for consent does not ruin the mood. Asking questions does not ruin the mood. I find that it's actually a bit more encouraging and it makes me feel a bit more comfortable. Ask your partner, oh, do you mind if I do this? Would you like me to take your panties off? How does this feel? Explore different things. It's good. I think as long as you're also like respecting the person's boundaries, you're gonna feel more comfortable. You're gonna enjoy it more. The last thing we can do as a community, as a society, is to break the cycle that has been passed down to us for so many generations. And a way to do that is talk about sex openly and honestly, but also age appropriately. So if you have young kids, talk to them about consent, talk to them about their personal boundaries, and that they have every right to say no to things or to communicate how they feel. If Uncle Tom touches them on the shoulder in a certain way and they don't like it, they're allowed to express it to Uncle Tom. And if they don't feel comfortable telling Uncle Tom, then he can come to you, and then it is also like your duty then to go and be like, hey, please don't do this. It is going to be uncomfortable. These things aren't supposed to be comfortable to speak about. Hopefully one day they will be, but the journey there is not going to be easy, and we have to take responsibility for that. I think also exposing kids to different sort of relationships at a young age is also very important, because then they're not going to get to 13 and be like, ooh, a girl and a girl, ooh, a boy and a boy. That should be normal. You should know that these things, and maybe that'll also like help them understand different relationships better and understand themselves better. I think it would also be beneficial to provide LGBTQ plus resources to children from a younger age, and this can go into the educational system. And yes, this might be difficult and once again uncomfortable, but it is something that has to be done. The earlier we start to expose children to this, the more they're going to understand, the more they're going to accept, and the more they're going to realize that it's a normal way of life. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that if you've made it all the way through, that you've enjoyed the things that I've had to discuss. And most importantly, to the people that do feel this way, that have had some sort of sexual guilt or sexual oppression, that this has helped you in some sort of a way, even if it just makes you feel seen or heard. That's all I'm trying to do here. And for people that maybe haven't experienced this, maybe you have a better understanding now of why people feel like this, or if you are a male, you can understand if females behave in a certain way, or if they express something to you, they're not just telling you because they're telling you to try, and at least I'm trying to share this information to educate people. We're all different, which is beautiful, but we also need to respect each other and get to learn about new things and learn about each other, because at the end of the day, it is going to make us a happier, better society. And thank you so much. I do really appreciate it. If you enjoy this and you'd like to see more, please give me a heart, give me a like, leave me a comment, tell me what else you'd like to hear about, and hopefully this is something that we can become a bit more regular. Thank you so much.